I'm Shaun Francis, CEO of Medcan and host of the Eat, Move, Think podcast, and also a champion sponsor of the 2025 Invictus Games. On today's episode, we're talking about the Invictus Games, and I'm joined by Tony Moreau and his daughter, Dr. Kristina Moreau. Welcome.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Really thrilled to have you here and hear your story about your participation in the Invictus Games. A little bit of my history. I was very briefly in the Canadian Armed Forces. Canada sent me to the Naval Academy in Annapolis. Uniform as an American, commissioned though as a Canadian Army officer, and I served ever so briefly, but got out, had a career in business ever since then, but was involved and continue to be involved in military, family, and veteran philanthropy. But along the way, I was also introduced to the Warrior Games in the U.S. In advance, we have an American colleague who agreed to do his best effort to produce it in the U.S. And I, as the chair and founder of True Patriot Love, said, I would do my best to make sure it happened in Canada. And lo and behold, it did. It started in London, a hugely successful inaugural games in Orlando, and then in Toronto in 2017. And that was so successful, we thought, hey, it would be great if we could do it again. And why not a Winter Games? Because we haven't done a Winter Games. And that'll be the 2025 Vancouver Whistler Games. It'll be the first country to host the games twice. So we're super excited for that. So that's a bit of the history, and delighted to have you both join in today in person. And then maybe I'll start with you, Tony. Maybe you could give me just a bit of the history, your history as a veteran, and also how you got involved with the Invictus Games.
I'm happy to be here to start. I'm retired. I'm a young 76-year-old.
Fantastic.
I'm still active. Played lots of golf and now wheelchair curling. For the last 2 years, just finished provincials. I joined in 1967, the regular force, retired in 1995, took a break for 6 years, and went as an advisor for the Ontario Regiment, an armored regiment in Oshawa, for 7 years. When I retired from the regular force, the last year I was on a tour in Israel, and an incident happened, and that led to PTSD. However, in those days, PTSD wasn't considered a real issue for the military. Mm-hmm. So you kept it for yourself and carry on. It took me 21 years before I came forward, because Afghanistan started after, and then they realized the PTSD was real. So one day, my daughter, Kristina, came up to me. I would call it an ultimatum. I never talk about my PTSD, even though I knew there was something wrong. Never looked for professional help. But she told me one day the grandkids were getting 12-year-old, 10-year-old, they were starting asking questions because I would play with them. Sometime 5 minutes later, my mood would change, my temper would change. So we had a serious talk, and she told me that I should seek professional help, which I did, and that was in 2016.
And Kristina, did you suspect it might be PTSD, or did you think you just needed to talk? You did?
Yeah, I did. But he wouldn't talk about it. Mm-hmm. But I was a physician in the military at the time as well, so I saw it lots.
Yes.
So I could recognize.
You saw the signs.
I did, but my father couldn't see them at the time.
So from there on, I got a psychiatrist, and 3 months later, I was able to get the family together and share my story. exactly what happened and what I was going through. And Kristina also mentioned that Soldier On had programs that they run to help people that go through difficulties, you know, whether it's horse riding or golf and so forth. So you should apply for the golf, and I went on a 1-week golf resort, and from there the Invictus Game 2017 were announced in November. I applied for it and I got selected. I played golf and I played wheelchair rugby.
So Kristina, why did you suggest Soldier On or sport as a potential remedy? Because those would have been the early days too of Soldier On.
Actually, because I was a physician in the military, I'd already seen some patients that had physical and mental health issues, and they came back positively
Right.
engaged in life again, and engaged in motivated, getting back in shape. Getting in shape helps your mental health. It was really awe-inspiring, and I wanted that for my dad.
And were you surprised that he initiated it then, and to see the impact on him?
No, I wasn't surprised because he's always been competitive in sports previously. Once he had started getting the help that he needed, he signed up right away, and then he was hooked.
And Tony, can you talk about how was that journey of getting back into sport, and did you feel, what was that emotional journey like?
Getting back into sports was night and day. Once I opened up with the family, shortly thereafter I opened up to a couple other people, close friends and whatever, and I didn't feel lonely anymore. I was sort of lost, I would say. I wasn't as social as I used to be. I used to organize a lot of activities when I was in Israel. I organized games, international games between Israel and Canada and so forth. And when the incident happened, after that, I was night and day. It was quite a change.
Was it the physical activity, the team aspect to it? Having a challenge, or all of the above?
I would say all of the above. I miss, well, when I first got out of the military the first time, I thought that would solve the problem, getting away from the military. In 95, I thought I would solve, not being close to the military, maybe it would help. So I retired in Oshawa, but it wasn't the answer. That's why when I was asked to go for it as an advisor for the Armored Corps in Oshawa, I did. But I was still the same old reserve guy, not the happy-lucky guy. But this definitely changed my life around. The sport brought it back, but what I was missing, it was the camaraderie, get the identity back and so forth.
Yes.
It was what I was missing the most.
Kristina, I know you had an opportunity to see your father compete in the 2017 Invictus Games. Can you describe what that was like?
Awe-inspiring. I would have to say that's the word that comes to mind. I was so proud of my dad, and he was so happy. But he was also part of a team. And I'm not sure, I imagine you do know, but the Invictus Games, when they sponsor an athlete, they also sponsor that athlete's family to go to the games to watch, and to provide transportation. And so as a family member, we were wrapped up in this blanket of support that actually I don't think I ever felt growing up as a kid, as a base brat. I know you mentioned the American military. they do have a lot more support for families. And this was the first time that I had felt as a family member recognition, and people recognized as a family member that there is sacrifice on our end as well, for my mom and for us kids that stayed home when he went away. And to be on the golf course and watch my dad play a sport he loves, to be part of Team Canada, see Prince Harry run across the field with his bodyguards chasing him, literally. My children met Prince Harry. My dad met the Prime Minister. And in the streets, there is all these people, just normal people, waving flags for different teams and encouraging all the Canadian teams, but all the teams, and thanking them for their service. And they would ask, "What are you doing here?" And they'd ask my kids that. And they'd say, "Well, we're supporting my dad," or "We're supporting my granddad." And they'd be like, "Well, thank you for your service too." And it was an amazing gift.
And that was the first time you had felt that in Canada?
Yes. It was truly a life-changing experience.
You also have served in the Canadian Armed Forces. Can you give us a bit of that background?
Yes, I joined in '91, and I served for 23 years in the Reg Force. I served as a nurse and as a doctor, so I finished my career as a doctor.
Did the military facilitate you going back to med school?
They did, yes. I was sponsored by them, so I was one of the lucky people, yes.
Yeah. Don't you also compete with Soldier On?
Yes, so after my dad's experience, I really know how much that it helped him. And I was also medically released from the military for physical and mental health issues. My dad actually encouraged me to do what I encouraged him to do.
Yeah.
So I applied to a couple of the Soldier On programs. And then when the Warrior Games came out, I applied and I was accepted. It was an amazing experience as well.
Yes. That's interesting that you had encouraged your father and then he encouraged you. Tony, can you talk about that?
So I said, for me, it was so beneficial to me that I told her, I said, the Warrior Game is just as big, if not bigger than the Invictus Game on a certain level, the competition level, which I knew the competitiveness still to today. And I said, why don't you apply? And actually, I had to get the grandkids involved because she didn't want to go. And the grandkids and my other daughter says, you should. And that's how she came about and applied and went for it. And my rewards, she supported me, or they supported me, and we always went and supported her in Tampa Bay when she went over, and I was a caddy for the golf part.
The golf. Yeah. And did your family have a chance to come down as well?
They did, yes. Again, they sponsored the families. I could pick whoever I wanted to be a caddy, so I asked if my dad could be my caddy, because I never played golf before I signed up for the Warrior Games. And it was the training, and my dad taught me, and then off we went, and I played with Team Canada as a team, and we won gold at the Warrior Games.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I played individually. I also participated in the shooting, and I won gold in the air rifle.
Wow.
Yes.
And did you do much shooting before that, or?
Just on the range with the military, never with air rifles, but yes. I also participated in wheelchair basketball and rowing. So it was crazy, and I had to get in shape.
So did you feel it was also a life-changing event?
I do, because I wasn't looking after someone else. This time it was about me. And I also, once I retired from the military, it's really hard to reintegrate back into the community. And I have not found since, except through participation in the games, or as a family member in the games, I've never felt that team spirit or that community. But I did get that at the Invictus Games, and I did get that at the Warrior Games.
And for both of you, has sport continued now as part of your life?
Yes, I do. Like I said, I play golf regularly, even though I had 2 hip surgery going on a 3rd one. But I play golf maybe 2-3 times a week. And I play now wheelchair curling. So
I actually have a rowing machine, an indoor rowing machine at home. I haven't been so good about getting back on the golf range. I just recently got did my firearms course again, so I have very big plans to get back on the range. Just might sound funny to some people, but you really have to breathe and be present and be in the moment when you compete in shooting, and so those are healthy things. So it's about wellness.
Absolutely. Yeah, and a great activity and precise activity at that. I take it you'll be following the 2025 Invictus Games, and your sister is also a volunteer.
Yes.
There, can you talk about what the 2025 Games means to you?
For my sister, I just want to say that she's so amazing and has supported. She's not military, but she has supported my dad and me throughout our careers, and so she was so inspired. She's volunteering in the 2025 Games. I'll definitely be watching them. I actually know service members, some also people that were patients at one point, some that I've served with that are going to be competing. So really looking forward to seeing how they fare. I know just from the grapevine that the experience of training is amazing for them already. It is life-changing and in such a good way. So for me, I'm very excited to see what comes.
That's fantastic. Tony?
I guess the best thing for the people that are going to participate in 2025 is to enjoy the journey. A competitive sport is only within you. The results is not the gold medal, that's a bonus, but enjoy with the family, enjoy the journey. That's the best advice I can give anybody, because I did. And the result is here. I'm still around playing sports, and thank God for the games.
Thank God for the games.
And I would just like to also thank God for true patriot love, because I know we wouldn't have had these experiences without it.
Well, thank you for that. And it's certainly, one of my passions. I've never actually met an injured soldier who regretted their service. So they're joining this. I mean, that's something to say, right? Because a lot of people, if they get injured, but many people have many regrets, but I've not met a veteran who's regretted their service, despite a lot of the stuff that they've had to go through. And in fact, for most of them, it's the greatest experience in their life. And
I'll do it again. 35 years.
Yeah.
I enjoyed every minute of it. There's been the little downs, but more ups and downs.
More ups and downs. Going into these games, what can everyday Canadians look for or take away, given your experience?
For people that don't know about the military, it is a different community altogether. People will realize if they go to the games or watch the games that the people are resilient, competitive, and there's a sense of togetherness like nowhere else. Let's do your part, they done theirs. Let's give them a big hand.
Well, for the community at large, if you can tune in, I would say please tune in. You're going to hear awe-inspiring stories. You're going to see athletes compete at a level that I would say is comparable to Olympics. Just the way that they put their heart and soul into it, it will be fun. Talk to the people, hear their stories, and thank you to the community who also has supported not only my family, but every family. And just by tuning in or getting a ticket to a game, you can help so many lives.
Well said. And yeah, no, I also encourage Canadians to tune in to the Invictus Games coming in a few weeks. There's a lot of stresses on our country and a lot of negativity, certainly. And this should be something that will put a smile on our faces, something we can be really proud of. We have 23 nations participating. It's amazing for Vancouver. We have global talent coming in, families from all over the world. So I encourage you to take the time and be part of the celebration and tune in and support our military families. Tony and Kristina, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you to our listeners. This has been Eat, Move, Think. I'm Shaun Francis, host of the podcast, chair of Medcan in the True Patriot Love Foundation.
This podcast episode is intended to provide general information about health and wellness only and is not designed or intended to constitute or be used as a substitute for medical advice, treatment, or diagnosis. You should always talk to your Medcan healthcare provider for individual medical advice, diagnosis, and treatment, including your specific health and wellness needs. This podcast is based on the information available at the time of preparation and is only accurate and current as of that date. Source information and recommendations are subject to change based on scientific evidence as it evolves over time. Medcan is not responsible for future changes or updates to the information and recommendations and assumes no obligation to update based on future developments. Reference to or mention of specific treatments or therapies does not constitute or imply a recommendation for endorsement. The links provided within the associated document are to assist the reader with any specific information highlighted. Any third-party links are not endorsed by Medcan.